The CBS This Morning studio pulsed with its usual early morning rhythm. Camera operators adjusting focus, makeup artists dabbing away the shine from on-air talent, and the faint hum of chatter from the control room. Meghan Markle sat at the center table, legs crossed neatly, her cream-colored dress catching the soft glow of the studio lights. Her posture radiated calm confidence, but her eyes darted briefly toward the crew, scanning for any sign of trouble. Nate Burleson sat opposite her, flipping casually through a stack of cue cards, his warm smile belying a certain deliberateness in his movements. To his right, Gayle King offered Meghan a reassuring nod, as if silently reminding her this was just another morning show chat. The segment was billed as an interview about Meghan's latest charitable project, an easy, feel-good story. In the control room, monitors displayed multiple angles, a tight shot on Meghan's face, a wide shot of the desk, and a two-shot of her and Nate. The producers murmured into their headsets, timing out each moment to the second. Everyone expected a polite exchange, the kind where the guest leaves with glowing headlines. But beneath the polished surface of the set, there was a faint, almost imperceptible tension, like the still air before a storm. When the floor manager counted down from 5 and pointed toward Nate, the red recording light blinked to life. Meghan adjusted her smile. Nate leaned forward slightly, and though his voice began warm and friendly, there was an edge to his tone, one that would become clearer with each question. Nate's first question came wrapped in a smile but landed like a stone. Meghan, some critics have suggested that your work tends to draw more attention to you than to the causes themselves. How do you respond to that? For a fraction of a second, Meghan's expression froze. Her lips held their smile, but her eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. She tilted her head, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear with deliberate grace. I think those critics are misinformed, she began, her tone smooth but carrying a faint edge. Frankly, I believe much of that criticism is rooted in jealousy and a misunderstanding of what true advocacy looks like. The studio air seemed to thicken. Even the faint shuffling of cue cards from the crew at the edge of the set felt louder. Nate nodded politely, but his eyes didn't waver from hers. I understand your perspective, he replied evenly, but, for example, last year's event in New York raised a great deal of media coverage for you personally, yet reports suggest only a fraction of the funds reached the actual charity. Can you address that discrepancy? The corners of Meghan's mouth twitched, downward for just a heartbeat, before she recovered. She crossed her hands in her lap, keeping her chin high. I'm not sure where you're getting your numbers from, Nate, but they're not accurate. I'm here to talk about the incredible impact we've had on the ground, not to debate media narratives. The temperature in the room seemed to rise, though no one had touched the thermostat. Meghan's voice, still measured, carried a thread of steel now. She straightened in her chair, her posture a silent declaration that she would not be cornered. With all due respect, Nate, she said, her smile tightening, those so-called reports are often taken out of context or driven by an agenda. My work speaks for itself, and I won't let misinformation cloud the reality of what we've achieved. Nate didn't flinch. He kept his gaze steady, resting his forearms on the table, his fingers loosely interlaced. These aren't from gossip columns, Meghan. They're from your organization's own filings, he said calmly, almost conversationally, but with precision. I think viewers would appreciate clarity on how the funds were allocated. A faint rustle swept through the crew, camera operators adjusting their stances, a stagehand glancing toward the producer's booth. Gayle King shifted slightly in her chair, her hands folded on the desk, eyes flicking between them like a referee waiting for the right moment to intervene. Meghan's expression cooled. She tilted her chin just a fraction higher, her voice dropping half a tone. It's easy to cherry-pick numbers without understanding the full scope of operations. I'm proud of the transparency of our work, and I won't apologize for using my platform to amplify it. Her words were polished, but the undertone was unmistakable. A warning shot. Nate leaned back slightly, his smile never breaking. Yet the glint in his eyes said he wasn't done. The crew could feel it too. The invisible line between polite interview and open confrontation had just been crossed by now. The air in the CBS This Morning studio felt heavy enough to slice. Meghan's voice had grown more clipped, her answers shorter, and Nate's follow-up questions landed with deliberate precision. The segment timer on the teleprompter kept blinking, its silent warning time was nearly up. But the control room could see this was no smooth exit. Inside the booth, the lead producer's tone turned urgent. "Wrap it now." The floor manager, standing just off camera, gave Gayle King a subtle hand signal. Gayle glanced at Meghan, then at Nate, and stepped in with her signature warmth. "Well, Meghan, we really appreciate you being here today to share your work." But Meghan cut her off mid-sentence. "I think it's important we finish this point because once again, the focus is being twisted away from the actual cause. From the control room, we're cutting in 20 seconds. Camera 2 swung in for a tight shot on Meghan, catching the spark in her eyes and the faint tension in her jaw. Nate sat perfectly still, his hands folded neatly in front of him, watching her like a chess player already planning 3 moves ahead. Gayle tried again, her voice a touch firmer this time. "We'll have to continue this conversation another time, but—" The producer's voice boomed in the booth. "Fade her out! Fade her out!" On screen, the viewers saw a smile from Nate, an awkward half-smile from Meghan, and then abruptly the segment dissolved into a commercial for a breakfast cereal, leaving the clash unresolved, but unmistakable. The instant the red light above the camera clicked off, the studio's hum changed. The artificial cheer of live television dissolved into a tense quiet. Meghan unclipped her mic with quick, precise movements, avoiding eye contact with Nate. A production assistant stepped forward to take it, offering a polite but clipped thank you. A floor manager approached with a diplomatic smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We're going to have to reschedule the follow-up segment for another time," he said, the words smooth but firm. In industry terms, it was a polite eviction notice. Meghan's brows knit together, but she simply nodded, gathering her handbag from under the table. In the hallway just beyond the set, the atmosphere was even colder. 2 junior producers whispered to each other near the coffee station, their eyes flicking in Meghan's direction. Down the corridor, a senior CBS executive stood with arms crossed, watching her exit. Back at the desk, Nate was already mid-sentence, transitioning seamlessly into a light segment about summer grilling tips, his tone sunny as if nothing had happened. Gayle kept her focus on the camera, but her shoulders held a subtle stiffness. Within minutes, clips of the interview were being trimmed and posted online by viewers who had caught the tension. Social media lit up with hashtags and looping gifs of Meghan cutting Gayle off, Nate's raised eyebrow, and the abrupt fade to commercial. By noon, the headlines were multiplying. Meghan Markle storms out of CBS segment. Nate Burleson stands his ground. Awkward on-air clash goes viral. For the people in the studio, it had been just another Tuesday in broadcast journalism. For Meghan, it was a moment that would shadow her every public appearance for months to come.